Hey everyone, it's Gary, and today I want to show you a little trick about using Photoshop. And you know I've always said I'm not a Photoshop expert. I use Snagit, I use Camtasia, I use these other tools to make graphics. But every once in a while you do need to use Photoshop because it is better. I mean, it just does things that some of these other programs won't do. And this is a simple thing that I'm going to show you. It's very simple, but Photoshop just does it better. Now you see in this video, I needed to get this logo into this video, but I'm on a black background. Now, when I come to the website, you'll see that the logo itself is black. So I can't put a black logo onto a black background. So I could have, of course, called this person up and said, hey, send me the Photoshop file, send me the raw file, whatever. I could have gotten that. But at some point, you just want to get this stuff done, right? And this is the whole premise. I always say I'm not a designer, but sometimes you just need to get stuff done. Otherwise, you waste so much time waiting for people to do things and waiting for someone to send you a file, and it just becomes a big rigmarole. So I'm going to show you how you can grab graphics off someone's website and use them in a video or whatever else you need to use it for. And it's really simple. Now, one thing I want to point out, though, you see there's some distortion here. This is not from the original file, and you see it actually in the logo. And this was a raw Photoshop file, so this one should be perfect. But I want you to note down here in the icons, too, this is distorted. So there's something odd. I checked the size of this video. There's something very odd that comes through in the sizing from this Zoom meeting that we did. And it comes to an odd size video, so it gets rendered odd. So these distortions are not from Photoshop or anything other than the fact we're using an odd size. And when we rendered the video, then the static graphics came out funny. Okay, so how do you get this logo? I mean, if you want to get someone else's graphic, what do you do? Well, let's just go to their website. Oh, wrong one. Here we go. Now you see up here I have their logo. Okay, it's right here. All I have to do is right click on it. And I can open the image in a new tab. I can save the image. I can copy it, all these things. So what I'm going to do is just save the image as. So save it as. And it'll just come into my folder. And just name it and save it. All right. Now, I'm going to come to that same file and I'm just going to open it with Photoshop. And what this will do is start a new project. So you can see what I have is a Photoshop, just a standard PNG. It's a transparent background, so that makes it easier. I don't have to cut anything out. And what I want to do, though, is just turn this thing white. That's all I want to do. Now, if I were to do this inside Snagit, let me see what happens if I do it. Because usually what will happen is you get this residual stuff. It just doesn't work as well. Okay, now I could take this and I could fill it, but I'll show you why I don't like using some of these other programs. Okay, oops, well, it didn't matter. I filled it with clear versus white, but I can always just hit the Control Z and get back to where I started. Let's do that again. Okay, now you see what's happening. See how it's leaving this little residual? It just leaves the background. There's some pixels that don't get covered up. It does an okay job, but it doesn't do it perfect. All right, it just doesn't do it perfect. And actually, I'm going to change the background color on this canvas so you can see it a little easier. So I'm going to change this to white. And now you can see it. It's even more pronounced. You see how the outlines are still there? Well, Photoshop is smart enough and powerful enough not to have that happen. That's why I use Photoshop for these types of things. So again, some things I just prefer to use Snagit, but then there's other things that I just know aren't going to work as well unless I open up Photoshop, and then I have to suffer through it. So in this case, it's pretty simple. This is one of the most simple things you can do. You just have to know where to go. So all I'm going to do is come in here. I'm going to pick out a new layer. And, nope, wrong one. Layer style. There we go. Layer style. See, again, Photoshop, you always have to memorize all these things. And unless you're using it all the time, it's just harder. But you'll see the difference and why I'm using Photoshop, because it's just better. All right, so all I have to do is come to color overlay, and it just automatically takes this entire layer and turns it whatever color I have. Now in this case I had white, but if I were to take red or black or this or that, it doesn't matter. Whatever color I put in here, you see how it's perfect. I mean, there is no residual. There's nothing behind it. There aren't those extra, like residual outlines or whatever. It's just perfect. Okay? And then all I have to do is save it, or export it, I should say, as a PNG. And let's do red. Okay, now let's just open that back up with Snagit. And I'm going to put a white background. Change the canvas to white. See? And there is no residual. It's just perfect. All right. And now I can take this, of course, and inject it into my video. I can drag this in as a component into Camtasia, and I have a nice clean logo. So a couple things. I didn't have to wait. I didn't have to call anybody. I didn't have to ask them for the file. I could turn it into any color I wanted. And, it only took me a few seconds, right? So if you compare going to someone's website, right-clicking on it, changing the color overlay in Photoshop, I'm done. I mean, in 1 minute, I'm done. It would have taken me longer to ask them for their logo than it took me just to modify it myself. And again, I'm horrible with Photoshop. I mean, absolutely horrible. Okay, I know 2% of what to do with Photoshop, but this is one of the things that is commonly needed. So it's one of the things I know how to do for very simple graphics, for very simple purposes, but makes my life easier. All right, I hope this little tip helps you, because it helps me all the time, and I know that you are probably doing a lot of the same things I am, and I just like passing these little tips along. Okay, this is Gary, hoping you have a great day, and go out and sell something. Thanks, bye.